Okay, hello everyone. I believe we're recording now. Yes, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Love Fruit podcast. And we have another excellent guest this week, and that is Lindsay Gasik. And Lindsay is
Hey guys.
what's that? Oh, sorry. Um, Lindsay is the founder of a website called Year of the Durian, which is a very well-known website. She is the author of a couple of books. One is I'm just getting the names right. Give me a second. One is the Durian Tourist's Guide to Thailand, and another that came out quite recently was the Durian Tourist's Guide to Penang. And these are obviously special locations for durian, and clearly she is probably. I think that you're kind of one of the experts on durian, or of all the people that I know, you really know a lot about it more than most people. Maybe there's a few scientists or something that know more about it, but Lindsay's a real go-to person when people want to know stuff about durian, but is also a self-proclaimed fruit nerd and knows a lot about fruit in general and tropical fruits. Is very connected to lots of farmers and special places to go to get access to these special fruits. And she also hosts her own tours and has did the uh, the Durian Festival. I'm trying to remember the right name for it. The
Oh,
Malaysian
yeah, the Baosheng Durian Festival.
Baosheng Durian Festival as well, and ran that for a number of years. So, really a fascinating guest. I've got a lot of questions, Lindsay. Is there anything that I've missed out that you want to say in your introduction?
Hmm. I just think that we have a really interesting opportunity here with fruits and travel to kind of bulk up the economy here and use it like an alternate economy by taking people on fruit tours and helping people go direct to the farmers. So that's sort of one of the things that I'm working on here is just sort of like networking and helping people connect directly with the farms, and that way they can have a different experience when they travel. Because I think most people when they travel they just go to like the same places over and over again. They go to Chiang Mai, they go to Phuket. They don't really end up getting out into like the countryside where people are really living. And so by connecting people directly with where the food is growing, they're also getting connected directly with the culture. I think that's a really special experience.
I think so too, and I think that what you're doing is excellent. And I think there's a lot of people that have a real desire for going to some of these places. I mean, I know that from a lot of the people that I've met that get into eating fruit, a lot of them want to go to somewhere like Thailand, Malaysia. They want to go somewhere where the source of these amazing tropical fruits is. And I think that people can go to these places and still not really get the experience that they might be thinking of, or that they envision that will happen. And I think that they're missing out sometimes just by going to these places and thinking that they'll be able to find all these great varieties. So what you're doing is really an amazing thing, and I think a lot of people need to know more about what you're doing and need to take advantage of your kind of specialist knowledge and stuff like that. And I agree with you. I really like the idea that I think that this kind of what you might call fruit tourism or whatever. I think that is a much more appealing thing than people realize, and we just need to try and connect people with the right people like yourself. So yeah, thanks for
It's really
joining us
great
today.
how accessible fruit tourism is, not just to people who are raw vegans or vegans or following any kind of diet trend. Like I would say only about like half of my clients are following a diet trend, and the rest of them are just people who love food, love exploring a new place, and who just really enjoy taste, right? And who are interested, or they're farmers themselves, and they want to learn about the local styles for how to grow different things, because it does differ in different places, both just on what's popular in a particular area. Maybe one particular farmer brought in a type of practice and everybody else just followed suit, or maybe they have a particular environment that really needs a particular kind of agricultural treatment. And so people will come to learn that kind of thing as well. And that really does change. It's very regional, right? That's part of what makes it very interesting is that you can go even within one country to these small little micro regions and have a completely different experience. And that's pretty fun and pretty cool.
That's yeah, and it's kind of an exciting time, and I guess right now for people to take advantage of for example, with some of the tours that you do and stuff, um, you're doing this at a time when you're kind of pioneering this a little bit. So it's not like people are going to a place where it's going to be very touristy or anything like that. They really are getting kind of an authentic experience and something that is a rare experience. So I think that that's cool as well.
Yeah, one of the coolest things for me is working with farmers who it's their first time to have groups out to their farm. You know, like maybe they've never done it before and they're just so excited to meet us and like to have people at their farm. And they might not even realize how special what they have is. You know, like we were at a mango farm 2 weeks ago that had 19 varieties of mango. And they just thought they had one variety that was worth being interesting, their export variety, the commercial one, and then we come in and we're like, oh my god, you have 19 other varieties. This is so incredible. Can you bring it over here? And they just light up, you know, they're just like so excited. And now they have a really cool new income stream that's pretty, you know, relatively easy for them to do. Just put out some mangoes for us, and we're just completely stoked. And they feel like a lot of pride, you know, and we get to have that kind of cultural connection too, which is really cool.
Excellent.
So I think it's a really positive experience for everybody, which is nice.
Well, let's get back to that in a little bit, and maybe we'll start off. Well, I'd like to ask you more about your own story. So, where do you come from, and what's the story of how you ended up, getting more interested in fruit and durian and things like that?
It's hard, you know, it's hard to know where things start exactly. But so I'm from Oregon in America, and I haven't lived there in 10 years. So I got interested in, I've always been interested in fruits. I always enjoyed having a garden, thought I was going to have a garden someday. And when I was in college, I started working on a blueberry farm. And so that was a really positive experience for me. I really enjoyed working on the farm. So I have a lot to thank the owner of the farm. He was very inspiring to me. But then I also got interested in a raw food diet. So I was a vegan, and I was actually having health problems on the vegan diet. And I went to my doctor. Actually, I was having a lot of anemia problems. Anemia runs in my family, and I had gotten so low in anemia that he was actually considering a blood transplant or blood transfer. She was like, if you're 2 points lower, I would hospitalize you. And so she sat me down, and luckily this was Oregon. So she gave me some options. And she said, either you go home and you eat a steak tonight, and I'd never had a steak in my whole life, or you have a green smoothie. And I had never heard of a green smoothie before, didn't know what it was. And so I went home and I started researching green smoothie recipes because a steak sounded like a terrible idea. Like I said, never had one before, didn't want to start. And I came up with Victoria Bento, who had a recipe book out about green smoothies. And I got really interested in the raw food diet. I ended up being able to cure my anemia, whatever, get my numbers back up just through having green smoothies. And I haven't been anemic since, following some version of the raw diet. So that's kind of how I got more and more interested in fruits. And then, of course, there was 30 bananas a day back then. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was a huge thing, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, but there are all these people traveling through Asia, and I wanted to meet them. And so we ended up deciding to come out and just never went back. That's kind of how that started. Um, but part of my interest was durians. I had learned about durians during the course of learning about raw foodism. It was never introduced to me as a bad thing. Like in the media today, they always like, oh, it's so stinky or whatever. But
Yeah.
because I learned from raw foodists, they were like, this is the best thing ever. It's like it's like a drug, you know. And I was like, okay, I definitely have to try this. So I tried it and I liked it, and I just thought it was the strangest fruit. I couldn't even imagine what it would look like on a tree, right? It was just like, where does this even come from?
Hmm.
So we decided to travel to Asia to learn all about durian. And at that point, I had also learned that there were these like old hippie guys who traveled on what they called the Durian Trail. And the idea of it is that because durian is seasonal and it follows the monsoon patterns, you can actually travel different countries and just keep changing countries and stay in the durian season. And so it really appealed to me at that time to just like follow the durian because I didn't really know where else to go in Asia. I wasn't particularly interested in like, temples or like sightseeing. Like I just didn't really know what to do. But following durian sounded like a good way of seeing a lot of places and kind of getting a good idea for how the countries were different because we'd be focusing on one thing and you could compare like durian here, durian there. And so you can really just sort of see what those small differences are that make up a country and culture. And that's, I guess, what I've been in my life. So,
And
cool.
can I ask, did you, I believe that you were at the first Woodstock Festival, is that right?
Yeah, I was at the 2011.
So was that before you went to Southeast Asia, or was that after that, or?
Kind of in between. So I actually had gone to the Philippines before that to try durian and to meet some other people. And I didn't have enough money to stay at that time, so I came back and I worked for 6 months and then I went back to Asia. So the Woodstock was like right before my launch.
Right, right. And what point did you start like the blog, the year of the durian, and all that kind of stuff?
I started it in February of 2012.
Right. So that's
And
yeah. So that would be a little bit after being at Woodstock, and is that so? By that time, you were out in Southeast Asia.
yeah, we were in Asia and we started the blog as just a blog spot because I wanted somewhere to share my photos, basically.
Right.
I was just getting photos of where we were and sort of I was kind of keeping an online journal of this insane durian thing that we were going to do. And I remember it was like Year of the Rabbit, and we were walking around Medan, Sumatra, and we just saw like all these signs everywhere that was like Happy Year of the Rabbit. And we're like, oh, but for us, it's Year of the Durian. Because we knew we had committed to a whole year of just going to the different durian seasons.
And where did that year start? Was it Thailand or somewhere else,
We
or
started,
where's
yeah,
that? Sorry.
Sumatra, Indonesia is where we
Right.
started.
And from
And
and where does that Durian Trail take you? Is it from Sumatra and then you head west, or what's the kind
well,
of general direction of it?
the durian seasons were really unclear. There was not really any websites online that helped you find where to go. It was definitely just word of mouth. It was just like a ton of online research. I was calling people like researchers, bloggers, just like anybody I could find who had written anything about durian online. I was getting in touch with them and being like, what's going on in the area? And so I cobbled together a year of the durian, and we didn't always get it right. We definitely like took buses like 8 hours in the wrong direction and like, oh crap, the durian season's not here. Okay, go back. It was a lot, to put it together, but we did pretty good. And I learned a lot that year about a lot of things, not just durian, and made some of my closest friends, I think, through the journey.
Yeah, so for a lot of people like who've tried durian, especially if they've tried it in the US or in Europe, they've probably only tried one or two varieties, most likely Monthong, um, which again, maybe that's the best one to export. I don't really know. But what's your opinion on like if people have only tried that, is that a good representation of what durian tastes like?
Really not. So Montong was never designed to be frozen. That's the first thing to realize about Montong.
Hmm.
That variety was selected because it has a longer shelf life and it's fresh and it can be shipped to China easier. So that whole variety was just sort of come out. Number one, it's super fleshy. It's one of the like highest, we call it the seed to flesh ratio. So the amount of flesh in it is a lot. And you can use it very easily for different kinds of post-production stuff like durian chips, bakery items, any kind of like processing that you want to make is really
Yeah.
good to use Monto, efficient, easy to cut, if you want like a big piece of it. And then it just respires at a lower rate. So when fruits come off the tree, they're still alive, right? They still breathe. When they breathe, they exhale water. and that creates condensation inside the box. And so other varieties like a chani does not do well in transit. Like you basically cannot ship a chani, and sending it to China would be a disaster. So Montong can last, and that's why it was selected. However, Montong does not really freeze well. Primarily, it has a couple of issues. It's fairly high water content, especially if it's properly ripened, and it also doesn't ripen thoroughly. So it does need to be cut a little bit early because it doesn't, the way that it is, it's a little too big. It stays mushy in some parts and kind of crunchy in others. You'll notice it if you have like a tree drop Montong, the texture is always a little bit off. So I actually think that Montong is better if you cut it early. Um, but that's the reason it was selected. It does not really freeze well, and it's very unfortunate for people who are trying durian for the first time. The best way to eat a Montong is to keep it frozen. Don't thaw it, because as soon as you thaw it, you're going to have your textural issues.
Yeah.
And so I usually eat it just as an ice cream if I'm going to have a frozen Montong, and it's really nice that way. Yeah. In 2013, they started shipping Musang King over. That's the Malaysian variety. And Musang King is beautiful when it's frozen. It has a really dense texture. It's very low water content. Even you'll notice if you have it fresh, it just peels right off of the seed. You can just grab it. It doesn't get your fingers messy at all. It's not mushy. I don't know what the water content is per se, but it's much lower than Montong. And it also doesn't have those like ripening issues. So if you're gonna get a frozen durian and you want to thaw it out and have a very similar experience that you have it as fresh, I would recommend the Musang King. It's more expensive.
So I've only been to Southeast Asia a couple of times, and I've only been to Chiang Mai in Thailand. And my experience was that durian tends to be sold on almost on its own. So you get a stall often, and it's just durian, or someone's maybe got a truck and there's just durian in the truck, or whatever. And I'm not sure. What would you say in terms of trying to pick one that's ripe or pick one that's going to be good? Is there anything you look out for? Does it change for every variety, or should you have one buy one that's already open or one that's closed, or any tips?
Okay, so first off, I would not buy any durian at all in Chiang Mai. I really just would avoid it. Maybe I would buy in the late June, July season when there is a small area only 4 hours south of Chiang Mai that comes into season. Otherwise, durian in Chiang Mai is being shipped 8 to 9 hours from Chantaburi. The durians that I saw when I was in Chantaburi, most of them had mold issues. If they're not, they're sprayed all over with fungicide, which is one of the nastiest chemicals sprayed on durians. They are sometimes rejected from places like Hong Kong for fungicides. So that's something to be highly aware of if you're not eating durian, like in it where it's growing, is that it's probably been treated with some nasties. And so durians, by the time they arrive in Chiang Mai, often they're splitting open, which means that pesticides getting in your food, and also it's not good anymore. I don't eat durians when they're split because to me that's an overripe flavor and I don't like it. Obviously, people can like it, right? Like Indonesian people typically like their durian a lot riper than I do. I'm more of a, like the Malaysian style, right? Like maybe 4 or 5 hours off the tree, and it's done. So I just personally would not eat durian in Chiang Mai. Otherwise, my tips would be do not eat durian that is opened already. Don't eat the ones that are cracked open. That whole idea of like the durian needs to open itself to be ripe is a total myth.
All
If you
right.
can imagine, like orangutans eat unripe durian in the tree. Like an orangutan is not going to climb down the tree and like hang out on the bottom for a tiger to like fight with it over the durian, right? Because tigers eat durian too. So orangutans actually do eat unripe durians and they hang out in the tree and eat them there. So that's where that's happening. That whole idea, just like don't do it unless you like that flavor, but it's not like more natural or anything.
Right.
And you want to make sure it's fresh. So look at the stem. Make sure the stem isn't like all wrinkled up or black or wrinkled. It should be really fresh. And when you flick the skin with your thumb, there should be green underneath, not brown. And yeah, just look out for like bad spots, any kind of disease that's going on with the durian. And go by smell, and then taste is up to the individual. If you like them really ripe, if you like them underripe, it's all up to you. So,
Yeah, so that's so controversial. You're saying that because people always seem to think Chiang Mai is like this ideal fruitarian, digital nomad kind of place, but you're saying don't eat any durian in Chiang Mai.
unless it's like June or July,
All right,
because
okay.
then it has to be local. And there's two varieties well, actually three, because chani can grow. There's a really nice chani that comes from an area called Hydrate.
Hmm.
Hydrate is about 4 hours south of Chiang Mai, and they have some nice durians, and most of them are, if not organic, they're pesticide free. Because the mountains are too steep for anybody to bother with their pesticides for the most part. So that's really nice.
That's great.
Yeah, I go to Chiang Mai. I don't really like it. Some very controversy there.
Right. So we'll get into maybe asking you some of the good places to go, but let's talk about the smell of durian, because the controversial thing for people that have never tried durian, whenever you research it online or find articles about it, the big thing is about the smell and about it being this, and all sorts of people have all sorts of really strange, to me, really strange descriptions of how it smells. And people say really bad things about how it smells, and it's this worst smelling thing in the world and all this stuff. But um, what's your opinion on all that? And why do you think it has such a reputation for having a bad smell?
Because most people eat it way overripe. Durian has a very, very short shelf life. Like if it falls off the tree, as it's doing in the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, it really only lasts about a day to a day and a half. But they put it in cold storage, maybe 2 days, but that's it, right? And so there's a lot of durians that are very overripe to the point where they're rotting. And so what you're getting is actually like a rotting fruit smell, and that's why it's dangerous. Um, and that goes for like a montong when you thaw it too, because montong for one is higher in particular sulfates than some of the other durians,
Hmm.
right? So that variety in particular is more eggy or more oniony than most of it, and that's the variety that most people are coming in contact with. And then when you freeze it and thaw it, it breaks down all the cell walls. So like montong that's very fresh does not have that aroma because it's still contained inside the cell walls. Most of those sulfurs are inside the proteins, which have not broken down due to like either pH changes or the freezing process. So that's why it's stinkier than like a fresh durian. And when you go to like a durian stall, mostly what you smell are the durian shells, right? They've always got like loads of waste product around because like they open durians and then the durian shells sit around in the hot sun until they can dispose of it. And so that's why you're getting those smells up there. Like a fresh durian doesn't smell that way.
Right, right. I've never, I don't know, I've never thought the smell was bad, whatever I was smelling. Maybe I was smelling the bad smell, but I always kind of liked the smell. It's definitely a very strong smell. I never thought it was a bad smell, but it really pervades an area. Like if you put
Yeah.
it in a house, everyone in the house can smell it like wherever they are.
Yeah.
Um, it's a
I
very
can get
strong
tired.
smell.
I can get tired
Right.
of this around too much. I actually started carrying gum with me, like mint gums, just because I got so tired of always having like I'm around during like all the time. So like sometimes there's like I smell like some mint or something to kind of clear it out.
Right. Right. What do you think
Very
about what do you think about the I don't know how to put it, like the health aspects of eating durian? Do you think it's something that is there any problem with eating as much of it as you like? I know that there's kind of myths of if you have like in Southeast Asia they say like don't have durian and alcohol and stuff like that at the same time, and people talk about it being like a warming fruit, whatever that means. Um, but and obviously there's people that maybe are into the raw food thing that are worried about the fat content, or they think it might be kind of high in fat or whatever. What's your opinion on all these kind of things?
I don't think you can say durian is high in fat. Most durians, I mean, it depends on the variety. Again, some are higher in fat, and they also have different kinds of fat. Like some are saturated, some are monounsaturated. It just depends. And for whatever reason, we humans seem to prefer the saturated fat ones. So like the
Hmm.
varieties we like are higher in saturated fat, and that's because the saturated fats bond with the aromatic molecules that give it flavor. Right? So
Right.
we're looking at the ones that give it flavor bond with the fats, and if we eat ones higher in fat, they taste better. So that's one reason why we would be going for that. But the fat content of a durian is only like 20%, right? Like an
Right.
avocado is like 80%. So you really
Right.
can't compare it to an avocado. It's totally different
Sure.
worlds. More like a bean. So if you think beans are high in fat, then sure, it's high in fat. I do think that fruitarians have a tendency to overdo it when they come to Asia. right? They're just so excited about it. They just like it's higher in calories. And not like super high in calories, but it's about, 1.5 of a banana. And it's so good that it's very easy to overeat it in a meal. And I see vegetarians come through, they also don't drink enough water. And
Right.
durian is sugar, so you need that water. It's also very hot here. You sweat a
Yeah.
lot. I'm always telling my groups, like my tour groups, the first rule is hydrate before you eat the durian. You want to
Right.
be peeing before you eat durian, and then you won't get the heatiness and the sickness and all these like heavy feelings. So I think a lot of people are just struggling with dehydration, primarily with the durian, and that's what's
Right.
causing these heatiness.
And we were talking a little bit about there. The people get excited about durian like no other fruit, basically. And I've had these situations where people are maybe at a kind of fruit event, and maybe there's like an excellent jackfruit or something, and people are shading the jackfruit, but it feels kind of civil. But when the durian comes out, it's like people lose it a little bit, and I don't know what it is. And then maybe people are kind of putting it on and pretending. I don't know, but do you think there's some kind of drug-like effect in durian? Is there anything in it in particular that maybe like stimulates people in some way?
I'm not sure. You also haven't seen people eat chempedak because it's the same thing here.
Right.
Sometimes there's more over chempedak than durian. Um, but I do think that there is something in durian that makes you feel happy. I can definitely get it. If I eat a lot of durian, I get this kind of burny feeling in my cheeks right here, almost like I've been drinking alcohol.
Right.
And it's also something that you typically eat in a big group. So
Right.
you're not just sitting there eating durian alone being sad. You're like with friends and you're opening a lot of them because it's fun to try all the different kinds and they all taste really different. So it's typically a very social event and that also just makes you feel really good. I do think that in the West it's so expensive that most people never really get to have enough of it.
Mm.
And then they only get one variety and they come to Asia and there's like a gazillion varieties and it's still expensive. I'm going to be honest. Durian is not a cheap fruit even here, but it's not as expensive as at home. And so they just kind of overgo on it, right? And
Yeah.
as much as they want of it. And it's really fun. Good point.
So I'd like to ask you a little bit about durian in terms of we're kind of talking a lot about durian, but it's really interesting. But
Yeah,
in
let's
terms
talk about my
of like the ecosystem, so you were talking about orangutans eating durian. How does it kind of fit in the wild? Like where does it come from, and what animals are? I've heard different stories about like it's really important to orangutans, and I've heard different things. But what do you know about durian in terms of how it fits in an ecosystem or in a forest and things like that?
I think you're talking about the idea that they need it for brain development to be able to remember where a fruit is in the forest, right? Like the brain mapping of the forest. I'm
I've,
not actually sure or not.
yeah.
I hear a lot of that. I'd have to do more research on that. But it is true that durian is a very important calorie source during the year.
Hmm.
So, there used to be like tribal people, right? Like most durian trees in the forest are actually planted by humans. It
Right.
seems like there's like symbiosis between humans and durian. So we're the main seed distributor, us and elephants, right? Like orangutans actually destroy the seeds usually when they eat them. So it's either us elephants or tapirs. Almost everything else is the seeds. And so we humans have planted most of them the wild ones. So wherever you find like a big grove of durians, it's likely that there used to be like a longhouse or like a tribe that lived in that
Hmm.
area and architectural or archaeological evidence in that area. And even today, most of those trees, people still know who owns it, which is very interesting. But back in the day, they would move. So if you had a durian season, and Malaysia is very micro climatic and micro regional, you might move your tribe to stay in the durian season for a longer period of time. And some reports say that those tribes would eat as much as 60% of their calories from durian during the season, right? So it was a very, very
Hmm.
important food source for them. And pretty awesome thing to have. And then they would cook it so that it would even last longer. But as far as like its nutritional benefit, as far as like being like that key pivotal thing that they need for brain development. I don't know the answer to that. So
Sure.
I wouldn't. That's a true fact. I don't think I've seen anything about that.
And you were saying that elephants eat durian as well?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh wow.
Um, they love it. They are also a seed distributor, and that's actually kind of an issue that's coming up when we talk about like ecological issues. Is that without elephants to distribute the seeds in the forest, now that we humans also don't really live in the forest, some of the wilder groves are not being distributed, right?
Oh
And
wow.
that's definitely something to consider. And there's actually a great story too about elephants eating durian. And I haven't managed to figure out if this is true or just like a huge joke. But we do know that the pygmy elephant will take a durian and it'll roll it in leaves until the whole durian is covered in leaves, and then it'll swallow it whole.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's got to be, and for this to happen, it has to be some of the wild species, right, that are smaller. Um, but then we don't know what happens or why the elephant does this. But that part is fact. But then the story is that loggers like to go out and like track the elephants and pick up these durians after they've passed through the entire elephant. And then they sell that for like thousands and thousands of dollars, and that's supposed to like Viagra or something,
Oh
right? So
wow.
yeah, that's a great story. People tell it
Yeah.
to me sometimes. I don't know
And
that
I've
one.
I've heard other things like tigers eat durian, and there's some animals that don't usually eat fruit that they'll eat durian.
I think everything eats durian. I can't think of any animal that doesn't. Sun bears, mouse deers. Mouse deers are the really small deer. Civet cats eat durian. Rats, squirrels, elephants, tapirs, tigers, cloud leopards. I think everything eats durian. So it's definitely a very important food source for a lot of things. And that's why I'm also saying that if you want a durian to like split open, chances of a durian sitting on the ground long enough to split itself open and be ripe on the ground is like none, because there's
Right.
so many other before you got to it.
Right. Totally. Well, so let's get into like for people who have never been anywhere, or for someone who's never tried durian, I think that what you're kind of saying to me is because I get a lot of people that say durian's disgusting, I hate durian, and I'm wondering if your answer would be to them that they've never really tried proper durian or good durian, or what would be your answer usually to people?
Or the durian that's right for them.
Right.
So I love this game, which is convert the non-believer to durian. And very high success rate.
Yeah.
And it's just depending, like understanding what flavors you like, because durian is has a lot of different flavors. There's a lot of different varieties, and they're all different. And also the harvest methods, like whether or not you cut it early, at what stage of its maturity, eat it, you like it more ripe, less ripe. It's all gonna depend on the person and what they like. Like there are durians that I don't like, right?
Mhm.
So clearly there's a lot of range here. So I converted some people in Thailand recently because I had a tour group who were staying at a resort, and I heard a family coming into the restaurant and they were like complaining about the durian smell. So I just walked over them, and we had just finished our degustation, which is where we put out durians at different ripeness. So we'll take the same variety, in this case it was a chini, which is a stronger tasting durian. And then we put it out, at 5 different levels of ripeness. And I also happened to have a little bit of Montong at that time. And so I sat down with the family and I was like, hey, you want to try some durian? It's got all these different varieties. And at first they're like, no, no. But then they realized that like this was a little bit different, because I had so many different like kinds and I was explaining what was different about it. And so they agreed to try it. And they actually liked it, right? But they liked like the medium stage. They didn't like the crunchy part. They liked like the medium one, and they were totally surprised. So yeah, it's just about like engaging people in a way where they can see that it's a more complex fruit, right? And there's more going on with it. So that's sort of one of my favorite games.
Excellent. So let's go into some of the places that you would recommend people to go.
Okay.
We'll talk more about your tours and your books as well, but what are some of the places that you would say are the best for someone that's maybe want to try it for the first time and maybe wants
Mm-hmm.
to get a nice variety and maybe 5 or 10 places. I don't know how many places you want to list, but let's just talk about a bunch of places that you recommend that are good durian places and fruit places in general.
Okay. You have to talk about accessibility then, because if you're traveling for the first time, you might not have like the confidence to like go out to the farms by yourself as much, right? Like especially here in Thailand, street signs are not in English. People don't speak English. It can be pretty hard traveling for the first time, especially if you're going to go to some place like Chanterbury, which is not a tourist region, but is very famous for fruits. You know, they have a big fruit festival coming up here and next week, the
Mhm.
Chanterbury Festival. And people can go to that and expect just to find fruits everywhere, and it's so easy and it's so cheap. And then they come and they struggle. So that would be a place that I say that Chanterbury is super amazing for fruits. And but you should go with someone like Grant who has experience in that area. Is going to teach you how to navigate the area, because otherwise, if you're not confident, you might have kind of a rough time and
Yeah.
leave not entirely at the city. So as far as like accessibility and like overall experience, I would say that Canterbury is probably not the best place to start your Durian adventures. And that's one reason why I really like Malaysia. Malaysians mostly speak English. They're extremely friendly.
Mm.
Um, Malaysians just will talk to you, you know, like immediately, like, hey, where are you from? You know, like just come up and be really friendly. So you don't have that feeling quite of aloneness that you can get in Malaysia. I mean Thailand. And then especially like street signs are in English. It's very easy to get out to the farms. It's a lot more set up for tourism. So
Hmm.
for some reason, Thailand still hasn't really gotten their ecotourism, agritourism out in a way that is accessible to foreigners. They have their own programs, but it's all in Thai, so we can't like do it. But Malaysia is really, really well set up for it. So I would say that one of the best places to start is Penang. It's a small area. Most of the farms are only 45 minutes away from the city. There's lots of farm stays you can go to. It's not just Baoshang, there's tons of them. And yeah, it's just a really easy place to get really high quality fruit. I'd say Penang is the place to start.
Penang, Malaysia, Chanterbury, Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
What about other places, other countries? Is there any other countries you recommend?
I like the Philippines as well.
Hmm.
So the Philippines is another place most people speak English. Davao City, everyone's really friendly. If you're new to Asia, you can have trouble with the traffic there, but the fruit is easy to get. Lots of different kinds. You can have tear ups. There's like maybe 6 or 7 different varieties of durian specific to that area. There's a really good vegan community there that centers around the vegan dinosaur, Sahara's cafe. So it's really easy to find other expats and English speaking people to hang out with and teach you how to like eat fruit. So I would say Davao is a really another great place to start. Kota Kinabalu in Borneo is also really easy to navigate. People are really friendly. It's a lot smaller, so it's quiet, but it has some really good markets. So again, you don't really even have to leave the city there to get a lot of really high quality fruits. Um, but you have to make sure you go at the right time. All of these places, you have to go at the right season, or else you're going to get there and there's going to be like nothing. And that happens all the time. People message me like, "Hey, I'm here. Where's the fruit?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not there for another 6 months." So
Oh no.
watch the
So,
seasons.
so I think the other place I'm interested because you've not mentioned this, but it's another place that I see a lot of fruitarian type people go is Bali in Indonesia. And what do
Okay,
you
yeah,
think about Bali, or do you have any opinions on that?
I've been to Bali a few times. I think I should probably go back again, but I always found it really difficult to get good quality fruit in Bali. I've never been impressed by the quality of the fruit when I've gone there. Most of it is imported from Java, um, but the durians, if you go to the north areas, then you can find good durian, like fresh durian. Most of that durian is just going to be a seedling cultivar. It's not it's not as stable or standardized as like Penang or Davao or someplace like that, which is going to have easier to find better quality durians and other fruits. So um, I know everyone's going to Bali, and like just like, what are they tripping on? Maybe I should
Right.
go back and again, but I've been 3 times, and every time I was like, you know, maybe
Excellent.
things have changed. Maybe things have changed.
Yeah, so it's really funny. It's really revealing this interview to me because you're a real sort of a real veteran of that area, a real expert. But you're sort of saying the places that I see people go is Chiang Mai, Bali, um,
Yeah.
just anywhere in Thailand, I guess, going to the beaches and stuff. And it's but the people that really want to eat the fruit, like you're basically saying, Penang, Chantaburi, and apart from that, maybe Davao City. So
And
that's
then you should go, you know, if people really want the wild stuff. Um, Kinabalu is good. But people don't realize either that a lot of that wild stuff can be found in Peninsular Malaysia. Like one of my very favorite places to go is like the Broga Hills or Hulu Langa and Negeri Sembilan. I love Negeri Sembilan. There's so much wild, weird fruit there.
yeah.
Nobody goes, right? Everybody goes to like Chiang Mai, and I'm like, what can you get in Chiang Mai? Like strawberries and mangoes and lychees. Like,
Yeah, because a lot of people say to me like it's impossible to do. It would be much easier to do a fruit diet in whatever place they think it would be easier to do. But I don't think they realise there's not always a huge variety in some of these places just because they are tropical places. They're not necessarily got the variety that people think.
yeah, you might have to be willing to look for it. Some things are very seasonal, and then you have to like realize about how much community means too. I mean, Chiang Mai has a community, Bali has a community. It doesn't mean they have the best quality fruits or the most
Right.
interesting fruits, but if you're just going to look for that support, having like other fruit-based people around you, that might be better than venturing off into your own in an unknown. You know, Kalimantan is a rough place, but again, really awesome for fruit.
Right.
Um,
Um, yeah, there's another couple of places I might get back to, but let's talk about durian varieties. And I think there's some varieties that are kind of famous or infamous or whatever. I'm thinking about the red variety. That's one that people like to show a lot. And there's a lot of people I know who are like have been done a lot of traveling and eaten a lot of durian, but they've never had the red durian or they've never seen it. And I imagine that that's quite one that you get asked questions about. But what do you?
yeah.
I know that you don't like to answer the question of what's your favorite variety, but what are the ones you think people need to try? Like the ones that are on your list of you need to try this one sort of thing.
Capri. Everyone should try Capri because that's a Penang variety. It is weird. Very
Capri.
pleasant. It doesn't look particularly special. It tastes like whiskey. I don't really like it. It's too intense for me. So that's when I'm like, you gotta try that one. I really like Wonton Chan here in Canterbury. That would be on my favorites list. It's very, very sticky. It's very dry and rich tasting. My personal, one of my favorites is China, coming out pretty hard on my blog, but I love a tree drop Chinese, and that's also a Thai durian. Um, so those are all some varieties you should try. Oh, there's so many. I mean, you really just have to get like, and each area has something from the spectrum, right? So the spectrum of durians we're looking at, I would say one end is going to be like sweet, fruity, kind of strawberry, berry, mild, and then we're going to move into like the vanillas and like a little bit stronger, but still just like very sweet and mild. And then we're going to start building in some like alcoholic flavors. So you kind of got like some fruity, flowery, alcoholic flavors. And then we're going to move more toward like chocolate or caramel or these kind of burnt sugar tasting varieties, right?
Hmm.
Kind of onward into darker chocolate, more on like coffee, things like that. And then you get these crazy tastes like metally, like really bitter, really alcoholic, you know. So there's this huge spectrum. And they have these varieties more or less in most places if you know which variety to go for. In Thailand in general, people have bred for more of that. They like the caramel taste as well, but they're going to be more on this side of the spectrum, right?
Mhm.
Malaysia is going to be more on this side of the spectrum, and then other places are going to be somewhere in between. But you
Right.
can find it everywhere. So I would just say that people should just organize their trip to make sure they're getting a little bit of everything, and then also try the different textures because things that are like so dry and bready and a little bit stringy that you can just like peel them and they don't get your fingers wet at all. Versus ones that are just like goop that you have to like scoop up with your fingers and it's just like dripping through your fingers, right? So there's range, and you just kind of have to figure out what you like for yourself. But those some of those varieties are some of my favorites. And then the wild species are just a whole different ballgame. and not everybody likes them. That's something to realize too, is that they are not for everybody, and that's okay. Um, so those ones have tendency to have more menthol flavors, more mint taste, or this weird nail polish taste that is actually really pleasant and that sounds really weird. But
Hmm.
some of us like it. So that's sort of the wilder ones. Some of them, like orange graviolins or a hybrid, can be like peanut buttery tasting, which is really nice. But they're just, each one is a different animal. So it's really hard to make any generalizations about what people really like or not like. The red one is interesting because it's a little bit mysterious. It appears to be lumped into a species where it doesn't belong. So it has very different characteristics than other Durograviolins. And within itself, there's a few different kinds, and it seems like it's probably hybridized. And so it has a very big range just within itself, the red one. You can't just try one red one and be like, yes, I like it, or no, I don't like it. You kind of have to make sure you're getting the right varieties of it. And there are varieties. There's a grafted thing. There are wild ones and there are grafted ones. So it's not just like completely wild. That's another like myth I think going through the fruitarian communities, is that the red one is just like some wild jungle durian thing. It's actually been worked with and hybridized and grafted.
Right.
There are ones that taste like onion, right, or
Hmm.
like an avocado onion thing. It's very savory. There are ones that are almost completely tasteless, and then there are versions of it that are like really sweet and peanut buttery and super pleasant. So yeah, it's another one. I feel like I can't give you any easy answers.
That's great. No, that's
Yeah.
excellent. I was just thinking when you're talking about onion, a lot of people talk about onion and as a flavor in durian. The first time I ever tried durian was a couple that I knew, these vegans had bought this durian, and it was totally unripe. Like they almost had to saw it open, right? So it wasn't really ready to open. And then we were trying to eat this thing, and it was really hard to eat. And the guy, he'd been a vegan a long time, and he was like, "Oh, I love this. It's like egg and onions, right?" And that's totally what people don't like about it
Yeah,
usually. But he loved it because it reminded him of that.
loves he loves scrambled eggs and onions. I'm like, that's that would
Yeah.
be a perfect cut, Connie. Maybe cut 3 days before it would drop.
Oh wow. Need to try that. But um, so people can read more about what you're doing at yearofthedurian.com. Uh, but your books are really excellent. Like you actually gave me a copy of one of your books a while back, and I was really blown away by it. I really loved because it wasn't just a guide. It was like there was a whole story to it. It was so clear that you'd worked a lot on it. Like a lot of people make ebooks and stuff, and they'd maybe not put a lot of work into it, but there was a lot of work that went into this. Maybe do you want to tell us a bit about the books and like your research and stuff like that to write these books?
I have two books out. One is a guide to Thailand, and one is a guide to Penang. And the idea is to help people get off the beaten track, go to places that would be otherwise difficult to access by themselves, or maybe it'd be hard to find out about it. In Thailand, especially, like we said, there are no street signs in English. Going to farms can be really difficult. So I wanted to like make that more accessible because those are some of the best experiences that I've had. But I also wanted to bring out the culture and like region of the place and like the feeling of like different areas, because every area does have its own story, and you can learn about that story through the different varieties and the farmers and their life and everything. So like the Penang book took me about 4 years to put together, every season going back and interviewing farmers, taking pictures, getting the story, hunting people down sometimes. Like I had to like, it took me 3 years, 3 seasons to find the guy who had the mother tree of red prawn. Right.
Wow,
So it's like I really wanted to get those like the full background story on those things, and turns out he has really incredible red prawn. Like it was not just a story gold mine, but now he lets me come and bring groups to eat red prawn with him, and they're just like the best. So that was
amazing.
really good in that terms. But yeah, so I would go to the farms and I would interview the farmers and talk about their life and where they come from and how the island developed through their farm and how things have changed. And show pictures of them. You know, like Phu Pho is named after a schoolmaster who arrived in Penang around maybe the early 1940s, 1950s, and he's the one who actually taught most of the farmers in that area how to read. He was a person, and he had one tree in his backyard, and everyone just referred to it as Phu Pho's tree. Eventually, it became a graft. It spread around, and now it's one of the most popular durian varieties. And so the family is still there, and they still have those trees in that area. And so you can go and meet them and see the mother tree. Not a Kun Po tree anymore. That one died in the 1960s, but the son of Kun Po planted the seedling of the Kun Po tree, and that became a little red, which is another very famous variety in Penang. So that tree is still alive. You can see the mother tree. So if people care about mother trees, for some of us, that's sort of like a pilgrimage item. Like, oh, you have like the original tree. I want to come and
Wow.
see it. So,
Yeah, I love that stuff. I've always liked the idea of going out to Kazakhstan to like where the original apple trees come from and stuff like that. I know that sounds like a weird idea, but I think that
it's
would
not
be
weird.
cool. Yeah, it's, it's to me that's worth traveling for over other things.
Yeah.
But let's talk. So basically, I want everyone to get your books and fully recommend your books. They're really fantastic. And I've got so many friends that like they just go off to Thailand or something. I wish they had your book or something because I think they maybe don't get as much out of it as if they had the guide. But you've done these tours as well, and I think you've got some coming up. And how did that all
Yeah.
start off, and how does it work out, and what's involved in going on a tour?
The tour started simply because people started asking me if they could come with me. So I do get a lot of requests from people to meet up with me, take them durian hunting, on and up and on. There's too many people at this point for me to individually take everybody durian hunting. I would spend my whole day doing all of my days doing that. So the tour started just because someone was like, I will pay you to take me out for X number of days and see stuff. And I was like, oh, well, let's try. So we did it, and it was really fun. It was really cool. They had a great time. And then they suggested that I just offer like a group tour. So I offered a group tour. It filled up really fast, and it was hard the first time. The first time, you know, whenever you do something, it didn't go smooth, but it was still really good. Everyone had a great time, and many of those people have actually come back and gone on more tours with me. So we definitely have like a good little community now. And so that's how they got started. They got started in 2014. And every year I add more tours because more people want to go on different places, right? And they're all places that I've been to a lot. So this year we have tours coming up in Penang. We're doing a 3-day tour on the weekend. And that one is more, I call it a durian school. It's very like intensive, like if you want to learn how to be a durian connoisseur, you would come on. And my tours are also different from other tours because like I actually did the math on it. I wanted to see like how some of these tours get so cheap. And it's because they don't give you anything. Like you come on a
Right.
tour and then hotel, they give you your transportation, but then you have to pay for everything. And I'm like, that doesn't, you can't relax because you still
Yeah.
have to be like the whole time. So on my tours, everything is paid for up front. You pay one thing, all your food, all your durian, all everything. It's done. And so I really like that because people can just come, they can relax, they can enjoy the abundance. They don't have to worry about like if I open another durian, how much is it going to cost, right? They don't have to worry about sharing durian because that always comes up. You know, I've tried other groups not having it be all inclusive, and people end up just sort of like hoarding durian. Like this one's mine,
Right.
and it just doesn't create that kind of like community feel that I think is so
Yeah.
important to me about durians. And so that's sort of why the price is what it is, right? It's because once it's paid, it covers everything.
Hmm.
I think that's really, really good value, especially for the type of experience that people are getting. The next one is called the 10-day tour of Malaysia. It takes you through all of the different regions. And so that one is more specific on like kind of integrating the different kinds of durian that you'll find in different parts of Malaysia, depending on the people who are in that area. Because the flavor of durian also reflects like what people like, right? They're
Hmm.
gonna have breads for themselves. So that one's really fun because we get to try like a full, huge range of flavors. Um, Depending on the durian variety, and you get to see a lot of different places. Then we have one coming up in Borneo in August. So
Oh
that one I
wow.
haven't put. not yet, but that's just a short one. It's going to explore a few places in Sabah, and then the next one is in the Philippines, and that's all we have planned for right now. So that's 4 tours that people can join if they want to. And I think that the best value of them is just that people don't have to worry about planning their trip. It's done. They don't have to worry about getting really good quality durian. I do that for them. They don't have, it's all going to be really good.
Well, let me go over that again. So, is it includes all of your food? Does it include your accommodation as well?
Everything. You don't
Okay.
need your wallet once you come on
Oh
a tour with
wow.
me. Like you can all the activities are included. And partly the reason I did it is just because we're out where you can't just go to a restaurant and buy food. Like we're out in the countryside. So there's not really a lot of options. Like I kind of have to cater everything, especially because we have so many vegans, vegetarians, raw fooders on our tours that we like to eat really local food, right? Like we might explore the herbs. Like we'll go out into the jungle and pick our own herbs and take them back to the camp and prepare them. Or we might take a cooking class with a local lady or something like that. And so those are all really great ways too to kind of feed into the local economy, the local understanding of food. I get to teach a lot of people how to cook vegan or prepare local dishes vegan or bring back, Malaysia has a lot of these herbal dishes that are just collections of different local vegetables that they used to make and they don't anymore because now they have KFC. And so we come in and we're like, oh, can you make the ulam? And they're like, oh yeah, and they get so excited about it, getting to share their culture with
Mhm.
us. And that costs money. So, that's kind of one of the reasons that I just make it all inclusive, and so that then we get to have these really amazing experiences. We get to keep feeding into the local economy, and people who can just relax and not worry about budgeting.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to a stage now where when it comes to travel and when it comes to going to things, that to me it completely makes sense to have a guide to go on a tour or some kind of planned, schedule of things. Because for me, the big thing, as you're saying, of traveling, the stress of it is where am I going to stay? Where am I going to eat? How am I going to get from A to Z? And how am I even going to find that place? What place should I go to? And it's so easy to waste time and get stressed and end up not doing anything with your day. And to me, it makes complete sense now to do something like a tour or an event or something. And I've seen so many people because I've been to a lot of the fruit festivals and I've seen people that come to these events and they get inspired to go to Southeast Asia. And sometimes there's maybe someone that has uh, a house out there, or people can go and stay with them or whatever. And I see people going and doing that, going to Bali, and I know that the Instagram pictures make it look really fun and make it look like they're living the life. But I know in reality what that's like. I know that it's just you're just in another place that's sunny and you're sort of trying to find fruit and you're trying to do stuff. And to me, I've been saying to people the last few years, or what I'm
Yeah.
starting to say more is, if you want to get that experience, then go with Grant, go with Lindsay, go to one of these things so that you actually get the experience of it, rather than you're going and you're kind of trying to have a good time, you're trying to work it all out yourself, and you just won't get as much out of it. So I don't see any. I think
Right.
people will end up spending a lot more if they just go on their own and they're trying to find all these things out for themselves, and the extra cost of travel, accommodation, all that stuff. So to me, it totally makes sense to do the tour. And I think what they sound really
Adds up.
exciting.
Yeah. The costs add up to a lot more than people think up front. If you actually go through and you do the math and you total up how much, your accommodation, your food, if you want to do any activities, like transportation,
Mm,
stuff you're going to because you didn't know, like on SIM cards or whatever, you're always going to spend
right.
more making mistakes. So those are all things that people don't always realize in the cost of travel, and it can be expensive, more expensive than they realize. And I know a lot of people who come out here thinking it's going to be super cheap and then get themselves in trouble because it's more expensive than they realized.
Well,
But yeah,
I'm gonna challenge everyone that's listening to this, everyone that's watching on YouTube or whatever. I definitely think that all of us need to go on one of Lindsay's tours. I think these sound fantastic. She's doing something amazing from the region. It's the only way of getting this authentic experience and getting the real fruit. So I think that we should all try and commit to getting out there. And what's that? Sorry.
If people don't want to, if people don't have the money or they don't want to go on a group tour, that's why we have the website and the books and everything, so people can still get themselves these more authentic experiences, and get better quality fruits, right? So that stuff's all free. Well, the books aren't free, but everything on the website is free. We have the maps, such as Google Maps with GPS pins. We have Facebook links, so you can talk directly to the farmers. We really try to put as much information out there as possible. Like, there's so much on my website that you probably could get as much as you need to it without the book. It's just people are too lazy to go through and like find everything. I have more than 400 articles on my website.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's a
Let me
massive database.
let me ask you a little quick question, just to go away from Durian and everything. You've been living out in Southeast Asia for a long time now. What for you are the positives and the negatives of living out in Southeast Asia?
It's different because I move so much, right? Like, if you were to like actually just have a house and a home and like stay in one apartment for like a year or something, but I follow the durian season. I'm still on the move every few months. And so here in Thailand, we're durian, right? So I'm still collecting information. I have new books planned. So we move. I would say that one of the biggest downsides is living in a hotel. It sucks.
Yeah.
Especially like someone who like me, I like to prepare my own food. So I'm always just sort of bummed out when we spend too much time in small hotel rooms. Right now we have a nice Airbnb, so that's really positive. And the positives are just, I am addicted to coconuts. I don't think I can ever go live in a place where I don't have free access to coconuts ever again.
Right. Let-
I love my friends here, that like they're so friendly. Like, Malaysians have taught me everything about hospitality and generosity and just being a good person. So I definitely have a lot to say to my aunties and uncles in Malaysia. Um, it's a different life. There's not as many rules. I guess as in the West. The downsides are just the obvious things, like we don't have access to good quality water, right? The tap water is,
Yeah.
and we buy bottled water. We've started spending a little bit more on more expensive brands of water, but I just started noticing that we were having, your water tastes like plastic all the time. It's probably not that good. So that's definitely a thing. Sometimes it's really, really hot for a long time. The air quality cannot be as good. People, you see all these Instagram pictures, but they probably edited out the smog.
Right.
So definitely pollution is a thing. The beaches, we're on a great beach right now, but it's trash. Those are all realities here. So yeah, it's definitely a pluses and minus.
Are there any are there any particular diseases or parasites or anything like that that you can pick up being out there? Any problems with stuff like that?
Well, speaking of, I have one right now. I got swimmer's itch or something like it, which is a type of snail that drills into your skin and then makes you really itchy.
Oh my God.
Fun. It'll be gone in a few more days probably. But yeah, I've had all kinds of stuff. And that would be another minus, is that I don't feel as comfortable with healthcare here as in the United
Mm.
States. We went to 2 different clinics. They had no idea what it was. They just gave me antibiotics, which I didn't take because I don't think that antibiotics are effective against snails.
Right. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of snails. I wouldn't like one to be drilling into me, that's for sure. Um,
Yeah.
at the best of times. So we've talked a lot about durian, but let's maybe finish off with some other fruits that you would recommend. We've actually just spoken about durian, but I'm sure there's more out there that you've found that people have never tried before, never heard of. So tell us some of your experiences and some of your best experiences with eating fruit out in Southeast Asia.
Well, all of us fruit nerds have our favorite families, a favorite genus, and one of my favorites is the Artocarpus family, which is
Right.
jackfruit. So beyond just jackfruit, you have your tear ups, which are something you find in the Philippines and in Borneo, Malaysia. You have peladongs, all these sort of like weird bright orange ones, which are sweet and sour. There are like monkey jacks, which we found here in Thailand just the other day. They're sort of a bubblegum tasting one. They're very diverse also, and I find them very interesting. I've just recently got into mangoes thanks to two different tour clients who were super obsessed with mangoes and kept asking me about them until I actually did research. And now I'm pretty interested in mangoes. And those are about 100 different species, and they're also really strange. There's like the Bambangan, is my favorite mango. It's about this big, bigger than my head. And it actually has a higher rate of killing people than coconuts and durian. So it's better falling out of trees.
Oh, wow.
And then there's Queenie mangoes, which taste that's a different species as well. Then there's the white mango, which you probably hear about on like the Shorty Eats channel all the time, the white one, which I still have a weird hate relationship with. No offense. But yeah, mangoes are really interesting. There's the Baccareas, which are all of the little family of like, I don't know how to describe it. Some of them are very sour. They have kind of a marshmallow texture. I love the texture of them. You have to just sort of swallow the seeds because you can't get them off of the seed. I really like those ones. What are some of the other ones you really like, Richard? I mean, I just feel like there's so many. Yeah, I mean,
it's easier to just say the ones we don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the ones you don't like, Richard?
Oh, the white one is definitely hate for it.
The white mango?
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard's not into it either.
Yeah, there's a guy with a YouTube channel online called Weird Fruit Explorer. He's a YouTube channel, and he's not a vegan or anything or raw vegan, but he just has tasted a lot of different fruits, and he's got a funny video that's like the 10 worst fruits, and he talks about some really horrible tasting stuff. Like I think he had noni in there, but he had others that he just said were just unbelievably bad.
Yeah. There was one that I think there was a little purple fruit I'm going to show you the picture of. I might have almost poisoned myself on that one.
Oh my God.
Careful with, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise there are a lot of commercial varieties. Otherwise there are...
Still don't think they can see it.
There. Otherwise there are... Hi. Commercial varieties like Nam Dok Mai, that is not that fun. Sweet, but not.
Yeah, Nam Dok Mai is not impressive at all or interesting. Well, actually, there's like 3 different varieties of Nam Dok Mai, so I'm a little bit impressed. But I don't really like it.
One of the other fruits that I think you mentioned a little bit was Chempedak, and there's a lot of people that say that they think Chempedak's like their favorite fruit and stuff like that, and a lot of people have never tried it. Is that one of your favorites as well?
Not Chempedak. I like the hybrids of Chempedak.
All right.
We actually do on my tours. We don't do just durians. We do degustations of other fruits too, right? Because we attract like all the fruit nerds. So we do one where we have 8 different varieties of Chempedak in one sitting. That's always really fun.
Oh, nice.
And probably one of my top favorite fruits is called Chempedjack. It's a hybrid of Chempedak and jackfruit, and it's lovely. The Chempedak is one that gets people really excited. I think a little bit of it is the hype because there are some varieties of it that really suck, and there's some varieties that are like really amazing, and some of them also just like, I feel like we all have different tolerances for sugar, and some of the Chempedaks are just really intense. Like a Chempedak King is just too much for me. I like a little bit more acidity.
Right.
So there's a big range. They're fun to explore.
Great. Excellent. Well, I feel like I could speak to you for like another hour. Like I've got so many questions, and every answer like triggers more questions. But we can maybe do this another time and have a second version of it. But for now, if people want to learn more about you, yearofthedurian.com online. Go and check that out. There is also Durian Writer on Instagram. That's your Instagram, @Durian Writer.
Not writer like Harley, but writer.
Yeah, writer with a T. and with Writer. And anywhere else that people can follow you or learn more about you?
I'm on Facebook. I do have a YouTube channel. I have a newsletter subscription where we release just like cool stuff that we don't want people in the general public to know about yet. We have a really cool release coming. We'll probably find out about in 2 days. So if people want to find out about that, otherwise no, it's pretty easy to find. But I do actually write about fruit for magazines too. So if you want to like dive further into the fruit nerd hole, I've written a lot of articles on fruit crop history for the Heirloom Gardener. You can find me there too.
Oh wow! And are there any spaces left in your upcoming tours this year, or are they pretty full so far, or could people still look into that?
Definitely, yeah. The 10-day tour is half full. The other tour still has a few spots, and then I haven't even released the Borneo tour yet, but we might already have it half full because people are asking about it.
Okay, so
should jump if you want to be
right, so that's Year of the Durian to find out more about all that stuff. And I really highly recommend everyone to look into Lindsay's books and a website because it's all very high quality information. She's put a lot of work into it. It's very clear that this is her passion. So check all that out, everyone.
I know a lot of people are going to be traveling this year, so please do use the resources. It's always nice when you create something for people to actually use it. So I know people coming to Penang, please just use all the free stuff on my website.
Yeah, I definitely use the resources, definitely get the books because I know that as fruitarians, we like all kind of magic ideas like the fruit's going to attract itself to us and we'll just follow our nose and we'll find all the durians and all that. But it's really good to get some help with it. And the books are just a phenomenal resource and you'll find them really fun and it inspires me to read them. And I just want to finish off, Lindsay, by saying it's been really inspiring to talk to you today. I really enjoyed it. It's really made me want to up my game in terms of coming out and doing a bit of travel. I've kind of not avoided Thailand, but I've kind of felt like, oh well, I'm kind of over that or whatever. But actually, I would love to come out and definitely, I definitely committed to coming on one of your tours and bringing some people with me if I can. And thanks for taking some time today. Is there any last message you want to leave before we finish?
I just want to tell everyone to dive deeper and really connect with your farmers. Don't forget that your farmers do a lot of work to grow your fruit, and so if you're traveling, fruit's not free. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of love. It's a lot of passion. So put your love and passion back into it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So we've been talking today to Lindsay Gasik from Year of the Durian. Check out yearofthedurian.com. Check out the books. My name is Ronnie. If you're interested in learning more about fruit-based, fruitarian, raw vegan lifestyle, go to fruitfest.co.uk and check out the Fruit Festival happening this year. And that's all I've got to say. So thank you for listening, and please share, subscribe, send this to other people you might think would be interested in this, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you very much, Lindsay.
Thank you.